My next guest is perfectly placed to talk about this. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Dan Geltrude. Dan, thanks for coming on. You are right. This is right down the fairway of what you talk about every day, I'm sure. Thanks for being on. What are your thoughts here? I mean, we had Doge, and Doge has kind of faded off into the distance, right? We haven't really heard much about it anymore. But it's nice to see somebody going after some of this stuff, especially after this Nick Shirley character exposed everything going on with the Somali daycare fraud in Minnesota and now California.
To be honest with you, Scott, I'm actually disappointed that Doge has faded out. I thought that was a great thing. Now, look, we are not going to end our national debt based upon solving all these fraud issues. The number's just too big, right? I mean, encroaching 40 trillion. But there is a massive amount of fraud, and it's systemic. It's not just limited to the federal government. It's, of course, also in state government. It's not limited to just one single area of any governmental agency. It is everywhere. So we have to ask the question as to why this happens. You got to go to the core of the problem. Now, as you said before, I teach this stuff. I teach fraud and I teach governmental accounting, two separate classes, but it seems like they basically should be combined. The reason fraud happens, Scott, is because there is a weakness in controls, meaning that you don't have enough guardrails to either stop fraud or detect fraud. On top of that, there's also the trust factor. Now, we shouldn't, but we have a tendency to trust the government, and that's a mistake. So when you combine the fact that government simply doesn't put enough controls around these programs, there's a trust factor that things will be done properly, that's where you open the floodgates for fraudsters to do a lot of bad stuff that, guess what, Scott, costs you, me, and all the viewers of your show a lot of money.
And maybe there's more people out there like me, I don't know. But, this whole accountability thing, too, though, when we finally get around to finding it, it never seems like there's anything that's really ever done. Now, it doesn't have to be always fraud, but it can be just mismanagement. I mean, we heard a lot from Comer out of Kentucky with he was investigating the quote unquote the Biden crime family. Where's that gone? Nowhere. Right? What about Russia collusion? That's really gone nowhere. Now we've got these people that looks to me that they're caught dead to rights with this daycare stuff in Minnesota and now with this hospice stuff in California. But will we ever see any accountability? Is there ever going to be anybody that pays a price?
Well, there should be. Look, one of the things about this type of behavior, and we're not talking about people making errors, that happens, and even negligence is not fraud because by definition, fraud is the intent to deceive. So that means it's not just that you are poorly qualified and you mess everything up. You're talking about people doing things intentionally. Now, when you have a situation like that, you got to have people punished. People need to go to jail. And if that doesn't happen and people get away with it completely, or it's just a slap in the wrist, well, that opens the door for the next person that says, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice here because the risk reward, even if I get caught, the consequences aren't going to be so bad. So I might as well try to do it. And that's what we see here. So you're right. Even when we do know it's there, even when we find it, who is paying the price? Still, it's the American taxpayers.
Right, and so all the hardworking Americans have put into the system, that system gets taken advantage of. Because I know one of the things I'm irate about is it's not just, we had no borders and we let all these people come in unvetted. And in the case of, say, Minnesota, they've done the math, Dan, and a lot of those folks are like 70, a majority, I'll say it's around 70, but a majority of them are all on public benefits. So not only are they all taking out of a system that they didn't put anything into, number one, and making these states go broke, Chicago and Illinois being another one. But on top of it, number two, is they're stealing with doing all this benefit frauds with, say, some of these daycare things and or hospice care. So they're not even living off the money that they're stealing. They're sending that back home, and they're living off of our benefits here. It's a double whammy that makes me absolutely irate, and I just don't feel like there's anybody that ever takes any accountability, and there doesn't seem to be there's no scalps involved. It just seems like everybody gets let off somehow, or at least if they're being prosecuted, it doesn't hit the pages.
Well, I'm going to add a third to that, so we'll make it a triple whammy. And then you have people out there protesting, essentially, that we're being unfair to these people.
You're right.
So,
right.
So I am certainly not saying that immigrants are bad and that all illegal immigrants that come here do bad things. Yes, they're here illegally, but that doesn't mean that they're on top of that breaking the law. However, with that said, you still have people out there protesting, like the people that are trying to fix this, or the people that are speaking out like you and I to say, look, this is wrong. It's got to be fixed. People have to be held accountable for their actions. And I don't know, we're the bad guys? I don't think so, Scott. I think there's a silent majority, a great majority that know that this is not right. And the only way things are going to change is that people are going to have to start voting for justice, meaning getting people elected to office that are actually going to do something and hold people accountable. And until that happens, just the nature of fraud and the nature of government, they're going to continue to walk hand in hand, unfortunately.
It's just, the whole situation's insane. It's like, on Saturday afternoon, we marched because of, no kings. And then on Sunday afternoon, we marched because we're mad that we took down a dictator. I mean, it doesn't make sense. And if they looked in the mirror, they'd be embarrassed. I'm incensed about it. But anyway, you can probably tell that. But thanks for adding on to my misery, Dan. Thanks for being on the show. Great stuff. You're perfect guy to talk about it. Great one to bring up. Thank you very much, Dan Geltrude, coming to us from Geltrude & Co.